so great to be back here again. If we haven't met before, my name is Lou. I'm a pastor, a church planter out on Long Island in a town called Babylon. If this is your first time here, if you've never been here before, and you absolutely hate everything that you hear, you could still come back next week. I don't even work here, and so I'm sure you'll love whatever happens next week. But in case you don't know this, you guys are a big, big part of why we are the way we are, where we are out on Long Island. The leadership that has come from this church has been so valuable to us. The generosity that has come from this church has been so valuable to us. And the example that we've seen from Suncrest here has been so valuable to us. We say all the time that when we grow up, we want our church to be just like this church. And so if you're part of this church and you are serving, you're giving, you're inviting people, you're engaging in this community, really what you're doing here is making a huge difference in a place far away from here on Long Island. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys are in a series. We're in a series right now. We're wrapping up a series called They Will Know. And what you've been talking about is the fruit of the Spirit. It comes from a quote from a letter that the Apostle Paul wrote to a group of people called the Galatians. And here's what he says. You might be familiar with this. If you were here the past couple weeks, he says, but the fruit of the Spirit, talking about God's Spirit, he says it's love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. He says the fruit of the Spirit here. Now, this is important, right? What he's saying is that the product of God's presence in your life, right? If God is the energizing force in your life, he's saying this is the kind of stuff you're going to see. Right? Like you're going to see things like love. You're going to see things like joy. You're going to see things like peace. He's like, this is the product. It's like, anybody like to go in the sauna? Anyone, any sauna people out there? Okay. A couple of you. All right. You could say that the fruit of the sauna is sweat, right? You go in, it happens. You're not like thinking about it. You're not mustering it up. It happens. And in the same way, he's like, this is the product of God's Spirit in your life, of living a life of trusting God. It's all of this stuff. Now, I've been asked to focus on one part of the fruit of the Spirit. And today, what we're going to talk about, the topic of discussion is right here in yellow. It's the word love. Love, right? It's a word we're all familiar with. Love. Love is a good thing. Everybody loves love and loves to be loved. There's nobody that's offended. This is not a controversial topic. Love is a good thing. Love is a big thing, right? Especially in English. We use the word love to describe the way that we feel about a lot of different things. Like, I love my wife. And I also love pizza, right? Especially Lou Malnati's, right? Yeah, so we don't have that in New York. We have our own kind of pizza, which is special in its own way, but Chicago pizza, I love that, right? So we talk about love, like we use it to describe the way we feel about a lot of different things. It's a good thing, it's a big thing, but love can also be a hard thing, right? Like one, it can be hard to define. Love's one of those things you know it when you see it, but it's kind of hard to put your finger on it. Like, what exactly is love when we say love? What is it? A feeling? Is it a choice? Is it a combination of a choice and a feeling? Can it be a feeling without a choice? Can it be a choice without a feeling? What exactly are we talking about when we talk about love? And not only is it hard to define, it can be hard to do. And you know this, if you ever tried to love someone, it can be really difficult to do. It can be hard to pull off. And if I'm you, and I'm sitting where you're sitting tonight, I'm in church, and I hear we're going to talk about love, okay? I'm probably jumping to some conclusions. I'm probably thinking that, all right, we're talking about love. By the end of this, we're fast forward to the end. What I'm going to be told, I'm going to be told some form of love more, love better, and try harder to love more and love better, right? Because Jesus wants us to do that. And maybe if you're like me, maybe you've tried that. Maybe you have tried to love more, and you've tried to love better, and you've tried harder to love more and love better, and you've really committed to doing it, and it's lasted for 48 to 72 hours after the church service, right? Like if you're like me, you've heard that song and danced before and you've tried to get motivated and it works a little bit, but then it kind of fades away. If you try to love more, try to love better. If you try a little harder to love a little more and love a little better, the issue with that is that it's missing an important piece of the puzzle. It's missing the piece that activates the whole equation. And it's missing a part that is so easy to miss. It's an aspect of love. It's an aspect of following Jesus that Jesus addressed at what we call the Last Supper, which is like the most famous dinner table conversation of all time. And so we're going to look at that in just a minute. But if you're someone who's not totally sure about following Jesus, if you're just kind of dipping your toe in the water, asking questions, maybe you don't want to be here tonight. Like you're just here because somebody promised they'd take you to Giordano's after this, right? You're trying to impress a girl. Another great pizza place I'm just learning about. I really do think that understanding this missing piece to that equation, it can change your whole approach to God and Christianity, following Jesus. It can take it from being a burden to being a real source of joy. And so here's the situation. Jesus is getting ready to die. He's getting ready to give himself up to die on the cross. He knows what's going to happen. And so he's sharing his last meal with his closest followers, the people we call the disciples. He's leaving his final words with them. There's a guy named Judas who ends up betraying him. Judas gets up and leaves, and Jesus begins to explain how all this is going to unfold, okay? And so he gets into it, and here's what he says. He says, John's recording this. John says, when he was gone, talking about Judas, Jesus said, now, get ready, the Son of Man is glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will glorify the Son in himself, and will glorify him at once. Got it? Right, this is one of those verses where it's like, yeah, okay, like you got to kind of regroup after. There's a lot of glorifying, a lot of God, and all that stuff. What Jesus is saying here, right, kind of to give you a simplified version of this, to see someone's glory is to see the essence of who they are. It's to see their character, their identity in its purest, its truest form. It's like seeing their true colors. And what he's saying here, something's about to happen that's going to show you what I'm like, what God is really like. It's like, anyone see the movie Lion King? Anybody? Okay, you got to raise your hands for that one, right? It's been around for 32 years. If you haven't, now you got plans for tomorrow night. Lion King, Mufasa, he's the king, he's the dad. When the movie starts, you see, okay, Mufasa, pretty good king, seems to have a pretty good handle on Pride Rock, right? You got a pretty good impression of Mufasa, seems like a good dad. But you see his glory when he dives into the stampede to save his son. You see his courage. You see his love. You see his willingness to sacrifice. Like you see all of who he is. You could say he's glorified in that moment. And that's what Jesus is getting at here. Like, you've seen me do some cool stuff. You've seen me care for people, but you're about to see the thing that's going to define who I am and how I care for people. And so he continues on then, and he says, my children, I'll be with you only a little longer. He's speaking literally. He's only going to be around for a couple more hours. You will look for me. And just as I told the Jews, referring to a past conversation, he says, so I tell you, where I'm going, you can't come. So I'm going to be gone for a little while. He says, but, you ready? But a new command I give you. Love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. He says, by this, everyone will know that you're my disciples if you love one another. By this, they will know. They will know. Anybody else really like when someone in a movie says the title of the movie in the movie? Title of the series? I don't know. It's just like a special moment for me. Okay. They will know by the way that you love one another. Here it is, a new command. This is the thing. What he's saying here is, I am about to do something that's going to define me. Now, I want you to live in a way that's going to define you. Like, love one another. This is the thing. This is the one thing. If you're new to church, if you're just trying to figure out what it's like to follow Jesus, this is the thing. It's the one thing. If you miss this, you miss the whole thing. In fact, a lot of people would say that the entire New Testament, all the writings that come after the Gospels, they're really just detailed articulations of what it looks like to love other people in different situations. Like, this is the idea behind all of it. My son, he's 10 years old, but in kindergarten, we signed him up for football. And we thought we were signing him up for football, for flag football. Turns out it was actually tackle football. And we didn't know until we got there and we fitted him for pads. And so it was an interesting fall that year for us. But he was totally unfamiliar with football. It's complicated. There's a lot going on in the game of football, in case you don't know that. And one day he's at practice, and he's got a great coach, but his coach was great probably for high school students, not so much for, like kindergarten students. And so he's using all this football terminology. I see my son, he's getting flustered. They're running a drill where he's got to run the ball to the end zone. There's people coming after him that are a lot bigger than him, because most people in my family are not very big, in case you haven't connected those dots, right? And so he's getting upset, he's getting flustered. And finally, I run onto the field and I pull him aside and I'm like, hey man, listen, if you get the ball, you run to that fence. And I pointed to a fence in the back of the end zone. Just look at the fence and run to it. Doesn't matter who's running after you, doesn't matter what, you just run to the fence. Jesus is like, if you forget it all, you run to the fence. This is the fence that you run to. You're trying to figure out how to handle a difficult situation at work. You're trying to how to handle a difficult situation at home with your neighbor, wherever. This is the fence you run to. Love one another. And so love, like I said before, it can be difficult to define. Like, what are we talking about here when we say love? If that feels a little mushy-gushy for you, the idea of love, an oversimplified definition of love, is, we could just say to love someone is to desire and to act for their good, to do what's best for them, to be in their corner, to be for them. And so he's like, you just remember to be for people. Now, if you know the rest of the story, if you're familiar with these disciples, maybe you know the Old Testament a little bit, right? You probably know this isn't new. Love one another. Like, there's not much. They've been told to love other people before. It's in the Golden Rule. Jesus brought it up in the Sermon on the Mount. The thing about this that's new is in these 5 words. As I have loved you. In those 5 words, what Jesus is doing is introducing a new standard. Right? If we're honest, if I'm honest, like, love for me, I could be for your good. But I could love you as it's comfortable for me. I can love you as it's convenient for me. I can love you when it's easy for me, when I feel like I have the strength to do it, right? What Jesus is saying is love as I have loved you. The standard that Jesus is introducing here and what he's going to display for them in literally a couple hours is that he is for their good, even when it costs him. This is the standard of love that Jesus is setting. It's for you when it costs me. It's for your good at my expense. This is the idea of loving as Jesus loved. As a church, in case you don't know this, like together as a community, this is how you have loved Community Church on Long Island. There's been nothing for you to gain by investing in a church somewhere else. You're doing this as a church body. You're seeking our good at your expense. But it applies at an individual level as well. It's going home and being patient with your spouse at your expense when you feel like they should have worked through the thing already. It's being understanding with your employee or your employer, even when you feel like you shouldn't have to be. Right? It's choosing to be for someone, to think of their good when it's not convenient. And it's a standard. It's a high standard. It's not the norm. It's not easy, but Jesus is like, this is the fence that you run to. There's a pastor who likes to say, when you don't know what to say or do, you ask, what does love require of you? It really comes down to those 5 words. It's that simple. Now, if you're like me, maybe you like that because I like simplicity and I like clarity. It's like, all right, there's a lot of different parts to the Bible. There's a lot to remember there. It seems like there's a lot of commands, but this seems clear. It's like, okay, just love people. Be an advocate for them. Like work for their good. Okay, and even when it costs you. So that's like the one main thing. And like I said earlier, maybe you hear this and you're like, I think I could do that. That seems pretty clear. And so you put your foot on the gas and you're like real motivated. And it's Thursday night now, and that might last until like Saturday afternoon. Right? Maybe it'll last like 3/4 of the ride home in the minivan. It's motivating, but it's hard. Right? Like, think about this. Jesus is, when it comes to loving other people selflessly, he's the greatest of all time. You know? He's the GOAT in that sense. And he's like, yeah, do it how I did it. It's like Michael Jordan in 1998, sealing the game. He turns around and gives the ball to someone on the bench. He's like, as I have, so you. Right? If you really try to plug this in, it should feel a little bit intimidating because the standard is high. And if we stop here, we're stopping at love more and love better and try harder to love more and love better, like Jesus did. But there's the missing piece. And the missing piece is in these same 5 words, but it's in a different sense. He says, love as I have loved you. And that's the standard of love, but it's also the source of their love. When it comes to loving like Jesus, his love has to be experienced before it can be expressed. It has to be experienced personally before it can be expressed relationally. It has to be received before it's given. And before you write this off as like some pie in the sky, right? Like abstract, philosophical, this concept, it's insanely practical. It's on a psychological level, on an emotional level, it's insanely practical, right? We know, and you know this if you study psychology, we as human beings, we love best when we feel loved most. It's part of the human condition, right? And if you even take your faith, just set your faith aside for a minute, you think about your relationships, this is true in our relationships. We love best when we feel loved most. And it's the hardest to love other people when we feel loved the least, right? So when I was in 9th grade, I was on a basketball team, and some of the guys on the team were older than me. We weren't friends. I really wanted their approval. They weren't super nice to me. They gave me a hard time about a lot of things. We just like weren't really gelling, and I really wanted their approval. And there was this one game, it was a tough game. We're going back and forth the whole time, and at the very end of the game, it's super close. There's just a couple seconds left. The ball accidentally ends up in my hands, and I took a shot at the buzzer, and it went in. And we won. If I had missed, we would have lost. And that second, all of these guys whose approval I longed for, who like I wanted to be valued by, who I wanted to love me, right? Though I wouldn't have used those words. They swarmed me. Like they picked me up. They literally told me, they were like celebrating while they're hugging me. They're like, no more jokes, no more bullying in the locker room. I'm like, oh, great. Like I'm finally in with these guys. It was amazing. I was on top of the world. I felt loved. Moments later, we were lining up to shake hands with the other team. And I get to a certain guy on the other team who was sitting, like was a guy who was guarding me. And once I go to shake his hand, he takes out his hand like he's going to shake my hand. And instead he punches me in the stomach. And no one noticed. It was just me and him, and we just kept moving. Now, in that moment, I chose to look the other way. I chose to be patient with him. I stopped, took a breath after I got the wind knocked out of me, and was able to be like, it probably stinks, like he's annoyed, stinks to be in that situation. Like I was able to show love to him. But it was because I had just felt the value and the approval of so many other guys on my team. It was like love from one source had been passed on to another source, right? Let me put it this way. Had I missed that shot and instead felt rejection and disappointment and failure and disapproval, I don't think I would have been that patient with that guy. It's because we love best when we feel loved most. It's part of the human condition. If you work, right? Imagine you're at work one day and you're brought into the office of the person you report to, and they let you know how amazing you are, and you're getting a promotion, and you're so valued by the company, and you feel amazing. And let's say you've got some struggles at home, right? Maybe you left to go to work that morning in the middle of a fight, but you have this amazing interaction at work. You feel valued. You come home. My guess is that you've probably got a little more in the tank when it comes to navigating the difficulty at home. But if you have the opposite conversation at home, or at work, rather, like there's an evaluation and you don't do so well, and you're told you're costing the company, and you better watch your back because you don't know if you're going to have a job in a couple months, and you feel small, ineffective, and not valuable, and then you've got that difficult situation at home, I bet, could be wrong, I bet you come home with a little less in the tank. It's because it's part of the human condition. We love best when we feel loved most. When you feel lovable and loved, it's easier to love. Or when you feel valued and valuable, it's easier to love. And so if you take that idea, what Jesus is saying here makes perfect sense. If you're going to love people that don't love you back, if you're going to love people and be patient with people that don't deserve your patience, you've got to be confident in his love for you. Not like a one-time Sunday school thing where someone tells you that God loves you, but moment by moment, resting and remembering his love for you. In spite of your mistakes, in spite of your condition, in spite of your flaws, this is the missing piece. We love because he first loved us. John later on would write another letter, not the gospel. We call it 1 John. He says this clearly. He's like, we love because he first loved us. Our love for other people it's coming from an outside source. We love best when we feel loved the most. The Apostle Paul, if you're familiar with him, he wrote a letter to a bunch of people in a city called Ephesus. And in the letter, he tells them how he prays for them and what he prays for. And he says, I pray, my prayer for you. He says, for this reason, I bow before the Father. He says that you may know the love of Christ, like the height, the depth, the length, the width, that you may know it. He says, though it surpasses knowledge, that you may know it. His prayer is that they would know it better, not that they would show it better. Because if you just try to show it better, you're just going to try harder and eventually you're going to run out. But if you try to get to know it better, like sit with it, think about it, wrestle with it, you will naturally show it to other people. The idea here, to put it simply, is that the love you know is the love you show. If you know, not just one time, but if you're conscious of the fact that he's in your corner, he's for you, in spite of the mistake you made today, the issue that you've had for years, the skeleton in your closet, the catastrophic failure, the fact that you became someone you never thought you would become. Like, in spite of that, you are loved deeply, passionately, persistently. You sit with that for a little while, it will change you internally. And that love that you know will be the love that you show. And so my question for you on a very practical level is, one, do you know that he loves you? Maybe you've been told, or maybe you've come to believe that your worth to him is based on your performance, or how well you can keep the rules, or how much you go to church, or how much you're able to give, or how well you do whatever. And what you need to know is that his love for you does not change, whether you get that all right or get that all wrong. That he loves you more than your grandmother loves you, more than your googly-eyed boyfriend loves you more than your dog loves you. He loves you with a persistent, enduring kind of love that you cannot change, whether you want to or not. And the second question is, especially if you're someone who follows Jesus, if we're talking about trying harder, the question is, where is your effort going? Are you putting in effort to try to more effectively show the love of Jesus, which is a good and noble thing, but will run out? Or are you putting in the effort to better get to know the love of Jesus? Like, know it intellectually, yes, but live with the reality of it moment by moment. People who study this stuff call it meditating on it or contemplating. It's keeping it in the forefront of your mind. There's an author named John Mark Comer. He loves to write about this. He wrote a book called Practicing the Way. He said, it's like being two places at once. You're eating breakfast, and yet you're with Jesus, conscious of his love for you. You're at work, and yet you're with Jesus. You're doing your job, you're teaching your kids, you're going to school, and yet you're with Jesus. There is this abiding, remaining sense of God's loving presence with you. And that has the power to change us. There's a psychologist and spiritual director, his name is David Benner. He put it like this. He said, meditating or thinking about God's love has done more to increase my love than decades of effort to try to be more loving. Allowing myself to deeply experience his love, taking time to soak it in and allow it to infuse me has begun to affect changes that I'd given up hope on ever experiencing. Coming back to God in my failures at love, throwing myself into his arms and asking him to remind me of how much he loves me as I am. Here, he says, I begin to experience new levels of love to give to others. It's in getting to know the love of Jesus that we will more effectively show the love of Jesus. This is what Paul means when he says the fruit of the Spirit is love. Like, getting to know the love of Jesus, you begin to sweat the love of Jesus. It's the fruit of the experience. Jesus, on that same night, Jesus put it in different language. He said, as the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. He says, now remain in my love. Like, keep it on your mind. Abide in my love. And you know what he says? He says, you do that, and you will bear much fruit. Showing the love of Jesus is the product of knowing the love of Jesus, and it has the power to transform us. And so my question for you in a very practical way is, what are you doing to bring yourself back to the love of Jesus, right? Where is your emotional home? Where does your mind go when it's not being directed? For me, like, it goes to my phone. I got nothing on my mind, boom, phone. What if every time you reached for your phone, you stopped and you remember that he is for me, even when it costs him? He's for my good at his expense. And you came back to that over and over and over again. My hope for you and for me is that it would bring us back to the love of Jesus. And the more we know it, the more we'll show it. Let's pray. God, we're grateful for your abiding, persistent love for us. And for some of us in here, God, that's something that we're wrestling with, maybe for the first time. in light of the failures that we have, in light of the doubts that we have, in light of the struggles that we have, it's hard to grasp the reality of a God who can love us through that. And if that's where we are, God, would you allow your love to become real to us, maybe for the first time? For those of us, God, who have been following you for years, would you remind us over and over and over again of your love for us, especially in those moments when we feel like the cup is running dry, when we're running out of motivation to try to love other people. Help us to remember that it will come from remembering your love for us. Would your presence with us be real? Teach us how to remain in you, to keep our minds fixed in you so that we might love like you. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Well, I really hope that was helpful for integrating faith with life. Listen, if you're in Northwest Indiana, I'd love to have you join us in person. Head over to suncrest.org and plan your visit.